He is the great warrior of the Valar, so mighty that he needed no weapon or steed. He is among the Valar who truly strike fear into the heart of Morgoth, and it was prophesied that their final conflict would come at the very end of days. Today on Nerd of the Rings, we continue our series on the Valar with Tulkas, the champion of the Valar. As with all the Valar and Maiar, Tulkas is present during the Song of the Ainur, during which Iluvatar creates the world of Arda. While many of the Ainur would descend into Arda to prepare the world for the coming of men and elves, Tulkas would remain in the heavens with Eru and the remaining Ainur. Those Ainur who entered into the world would remain bound to it until its end. While not completely cut off from Iluvatar, they must dwell within the circles of the world so long as it endures, similar to the way the elves are bound to Arda itself. However, Tulkas would eventually join the Ainur who had descended into Arda. After 1,500 Valian years, over 14,000 of our own years, he becomes aware of the first war between the Valar and Melkor. But in the midst of the war, a spirit of great strength and hardihood came to the aid of the Valar, hearing in the far heaven that there was battle in the little kingdom, and Arda was filled with the sound of his laughter. So came Tulkas the Strong, whose anger passes like a mighty wind, scattering cloud and darkness before it. And Melkor fled before his wrath and his laughter, and forsook Arda, and there was peace for a long age. And Tulkas remained and became one of the Valar of the kingdom of Arda, but Melkor brooded in the outer darkness, and his hate was given to Tulkas forever after. With Melkor having fled beyond the walls of night, the spring of Arda begins. The Valar raise the two lamps in the Valian year 1900, giving light to the lands of Arda. And during this time of nearly 15,000 years, the lands become filled with trees, plants, birds, and beasts. Finally, in the Valian year 3400, at a great feast ordained by Manwe, Tulkas marries the Valier Nessa the dancer, known for being swift as an arrow. Tulkas himself is described as having ruddy skin, with golden hair and beard. He is slow to wrath, yet slow to forgive. It is said he is so strong and quick that he needed neither weapon nor steed. He delights in feats of strength, like fighting and wrestling. Still, he was said to not have been dreadful, save perhaps in the eyes of Melkor. He laughs loudly in both sport and war, and his anger dispels both darkness and clouds. Realizing the vigilance of the Valar was lacking during their long feast, Melkor secretly travels to the northern lands of the world, raising the Iron Mountains and delving his vast fortress of Utumno. After the feast, Tulkas falls into a great sleep, for his strength had been used in the service of all without ceasing in all the days of their labor. Melkor, seeing his chance arise, attacks in the Valian year 3450 and destroys the two lamps. Melkor retreats to Utumno, though fear falls upon him, for he hears the voice of Manwe as a mighty wind, and the earth trembles beneath the feet of Tulkas. However, the Valar could not attack Melkor at this time, for their power was needed to save all they could from the destruction wrought by Melkor. The Valar would retreat to the lands of Aman, where Yavanna would bring forth the two trees to bring light to their lands. Tulkas, known for being impatient, urges the Valar to wage war against Melkor, even before the awakening of the elves, wishing to take back control of the wider world.
Let us make war swiftly. Have we not rested from strife overlong? And is not our strength now renewed? Shall one alone contest with us forever?
However, the Valar would not yet attack their foe. In the years of the trees 1050, the elves would at last awake at Cuiviénen, and upon Orome's discovery of the firstborn of Iluvatar, Manwe holds a council at the Ring of Doom. There he announces that it is the will of Iluvatar that the Valar should make war upon Morgoth for the sake of his children. Tulkas is glad of this decision, and takes part in the resulting Battle of the Powers in the Year of the Trees 1090. While some of the Ainur would guard the elves at Cuiviénen to protect them from the battle, others would make war upon Utumno. After 9 years of the trees, the gates of Utumno were broken and the halls unroofed, and Melkor took refuge in the uttermost pit. Then Tulkas stood forth as champion of the Valar and wrestled with him, and cast him upon his face, and he was bound with the chain Ainur that Aule had wrought and led captive, and the world had peace for a long age. Melkor is made captive in the halls of Mandos for 3 ages of the world, during which time many of Iluvatar's firstborn would come to live alongside the Ainur in Valinor. At the end of his sentence, Melkor pleads for pardon from Manwe, and it is granted. While Manwe could not comprehend evil, and could not see that all love had departed from Melkor forever, it is said that Ulmo and Tulkas were not deceived by the Dark Lord, and Tulkas clenched his hands whenever he saw Melkor his foe go by. For if Tulkas is slow to wrath, he is slow also to forget. When it is discovered that Melkor had sown lies in the hearts of the Noldor of Valinor, Tulkas and Orome search for him in the north of Aman. However, by this time, when Feanor drew a sword upon his brother, Melkor had already fled south. In these southern lands, Melkor would enlist the help of Ungoliant, and together they killed the 2 trees and caused the darkening of Valinor. In this moment, Tulkas and Orome spring up, and hearing of Melkor's flight to the north, go northward with all speed. However, they are thwarted by the unlight of Ungoliant, a cloud of vast darkness that no light can escape or penetrate. And Tulkas was as one caught in a black net at night, and he stood powerless and beat the air in vain. But when the darkness had passed, it was too late. Melkor had gone whither he would, and his vengeance was achieved. In some of Tolkien's earlier writings, found in the 5th volume of the History of Middle-earth, The Lost Road and Other Writings, we see an alternate version of this pursuit. Out upon the plain, the horses of Orome thundered with 1,000 hooves, and fire started in the gloom about their feet. Swifter than they, Tulkas ran before them, and the light of the anger of his eyes was as a beacon, but they found not what they sought. Wherever Morgoth went, a darkness and confusion was around him, woven by Ungoliante, so that their feet strayed and their eyes were blind, and Morgoth escaped the hunt. Returning to the rest of the Valar and the Noldor, Tulkas finds Manwe and Yavanna speaking to Feanor about his silmarils, the only hope for restoring the 2 trees. When Feanor initially does not answer, Tulkas cries out,
"Speak, O Noldo, yea or nay, but who shall deny Yavanna? And did not the light of the silmarils come from her work in the beginning?"
Aule tells Tulkas to not be hasty, and that they ask a greater thing of a craftsman than he realizes. Feanor would refuse the request of the Valar, and Middle-earth would be plunged into centuries of war with the Dark Lord. Unlike his brethren like Ulmo, who would come into the tales of the First Age, Tulkas is next mentioned at the very ending of the world. In the Dagor Dagorath, Tolkien's abandoned writings on the end days of Arda, it is said Morgoth will break free of his captivity in the void and destroy the sun and moon. Then shall the last battle be gathered on the fields of Valinor. In that day Tulkas shall strive with Morgoth, and on his right hand shall be Fionwe, and on his left Turin Turambar, son of Hurin, coming from the halls of Mandos. And the black sword of Turin shall deal unto Morgoth his death and final end. And so shall the children of Hurin and all men be avenged. From his earliest days in Arda to the last, Tulkas would strongly stand against the evil of Morgoth. And while he would not be the most involved or written about among the Valar, his brief appearances are memorable for his great strength, his delight in fighting, and the Dark Lord's fear of the mighty Tulkas. As always, I want to say a huge thank you to all my Patreon and YouTube supporters who make this channel possible. Tom DeBombadil19, Lissamy the Cinda, Rabbi Rob Thomas, Charles Leisure, CCDC Red Team, Joe Tepper, The Mighty Mim, Leo Vittori, Sky Carcass, Slide Belts, Dane Ragnarsson, Berto Berg, Graham Derricott, The Dark-Haired One, Wyland, Micah Wu, and Debbie. If you enjoyed the artwork in this video, check out the artists in the description to purchase prints of their great work for yourself. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Nerd of the Rings.